I'm going to read the poem, of course, that's in the MQR, and I just want to thank everybody who had anything to do with this. You don't know what you've done. Oh, I've got to say something though. This is the very first time I'm 64 years old. Yay! And this, oh, thank you.
Okay.
And this is, I may not need that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So if I move around, it's okay. This is the very first time I have read a poem since I have had a thingdom. Now let me explain. Oh dear. Okay, I was married for 40 years. My divorce was finalized in 2013. I have to show you this picture because it will make everything meaningful.
Pass around the iPad.
Come on.
Can you describe the picture because we can't have it passed around?
No.
Okay.
Here's a picture.
Okay.
You will see it is me. It is me and my thing.
Yeah.
If you know me on Facebook, you will know that it's in my featured photos. This is very important to say because in fact I told him that there's no longer any need to go by his pseudonym, which might be in MQR. His real name, I get to say it, yay! His real name is Bob Holman. Perhaps you've heard of him.
That's right. Yes.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm involved with him. Okay. And I have been for some time. And as a matter of fact, the poem in MQR, that's the Moseying Out Bible, was a collaboration with him. He and I have written many poems together. Now, did I bring a white bag up here with me? Oh. And I understand that a lot of books could not be on display, but I wanted you to see this because I properly identify myself as a maker. I make stuff. You see this dress? I made this dress by hand on this doll in the dark. This is on the cover of my book, Slave Moth. And I made this because of what some people were, my ideas were that what made slavery bad is simply ownership. Not the race of the person, it is ownership. You should not own another person. And so to make my point, the problem was I went to a meeting at my son's school. And they were talking about they wanted the whole unit on slavery eliminated. I said, no, I said, you have the wrong idea. I said, white back again. I don't know which book that might be here. Please be in here. You'll see the dress is on the cover. Yeah. And so when I got home, I realized they needed another model of slavery. They did not have the best model because their reasons for objecting to it was that it was someone black. I said, that is not the reason. The reason is ownership. And so I created the character Varl. That doll represents Varl. She is a literate slave. The problem is that she was owned. She was literate. She lived in a fine house in the South, but she did not belong to herself. And that is the problem. Sorry. Now, all right, so this man I showed you, I know this book isn't here. After I saw him, I was so transformed, even though I had been married for 40 years, I was so transformed by just a man's kiss that I wrote this. New kiss horizon. Oh, and I'm going to read this only because, now I must say this. This is very important to me. Aha. Yeah, you have Slave Month. You see this book right here? That man wrote a blurb for this book. It is not on here. You know why? The publisher of this book said it didn't come from a high-powered poet. And I was very hurt because I begged him to write it. And then she rejected it because it didn't come. And she did other things as well, but I just wanted to mention that. Now, this book is not a comprehensive book of my work. I'll tell you why. One book is missing. This one, which was published by Echo Press. This is also a new and selected. And I was the editor of this book. Karen Braziller served me a subpoena. I was ordered to bring all copies of the poems in question to this book. Why isn't this one included? This is the only book to which I own all the rights. It's not in here. She would have had to get permission from me. Sorry. I just wanted to say that. So this is not comprehensive. All right, let me get back to the reading.
All right.
Okay, now, Robert Frost came up, and that's the only, oh dear, that's what I need.
Do you need the poem and the issue?
No. I had that book out, it was with this.
Oh,
I'm
here.
looking for Rainbow Remnants.
Right there.
That's it, thank you. Because Frost came up, I wanted to read my poem about Frost. I hope you like it. It's in this book. It might be in the Wannabe Hoochie Mama, but I'd rather read it from this one. Yes, interpretation of a poem by Frost. A young black girl stopped by the woods. Oh, I should give you this I taught for a while at Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts. And I had asked the students, I said, we're gonna read Frost. And they said Frost is irrelevant. So I wrote this poem to show that Frost could have relevance. Interpretation of a poem by Frost. A young black girl stopped by the woods. Oh yes. So young she knew only one man, Jim Crow. But she wasn't allowed to call him Mr. The woods were his, and she respected his boundaries, even in the absence of fence. Of course she delighted in the filling up of his woods. She's so accustomed to emptiness, to being taken at face value. This face, her face, eternally the brown of declining autumn, watches snow enter the grass, cling to bark, making it seem indecisive about race preference, a fast-to-melt idealism. With the grass covered, black and white are the only options. Polarity is the only reality. Corners aren't neutral, but are on edge. She shakes off snow. Defiance wasted on the limited audience of horse. The snow does not hypnotize her as it wants to, as the blonde sun does in making too many prefer daylight. She has promises to keep. The promise that she bear Jim no bastards. The promise that she ride the horse only as long as it is willing to accept riders. The promise that she bear Jim no bastards. The promise to her face that it not be mistaken as shadow, and miles to go, more than the distance from Africa to Andover, more than the distance from black to white, before she sleeps with Jim. Now the poem that I wrote with the man, in here, I've had to use a pseudonym for him in all my writing, Thomas Robert Higginson, but for real, he's Bob Holman. And, when they rejected his blurb for this book, what she didn't know was that in the last few part of this book, the new poems, most of them say that they were written with Thomas Robert Higginson. He's in the book anyway. I thought it was important to say that. I didn't like the idea, I didn't like her reasons for rejecting it. Okay. Now this poem, the Moseying Out Bible, which I've never read, that I wrote with a man whose work she rejected. Anyway, oh dear. Okay. I'm sorry, I've never read it before. And I don't remember which one of us wrote which lines, which I think is important. It's true collaboration. I have no idea. And the way it would work, he would send me a line or a stanza, I would send him one, he'd send one back. So one of us would add stuff to it. I have no idea anymore, so I don't know who wrote which, except that when I wrote Armadillo Style, he just sent me back one word, wow. Okay. I won't read the numbers. Nothing could mosey out that wasn't in there, isn't in here. And I guess my point here, I don't know if I should, bedrock of me, I'm talking about him. Anyway, fundamental, essence, nitty gritty, substratum, solid, sometimes colloidal, mixture suspended throughout another substance. A glyptodont, extinct mammal, here only by moseying out 35 million years ago, just yesterday in the history of armadillo, style still being lived, so still being written. Cozy, isn't it? Better if it just disappeared altogether. Better for whom? For what? These are true feelings of a diminutive species, ha. Native to the Americas, ha. Armored, necessary to protect the mosey and to project it. Protons of mosey, Prophecy, promises of Mosey, promote pixies of Mosey, proliferating, profiting from Moseying itself, that professional leisurely protein providing protest in every one of its 9 prodigious bands. Wow, that's what he said. Just another Moseying love poem for a grandmaster promoter. That's what he's called. Wow again, that armadillo of his aging neck. Okay, he's older than me. I mosey right into it, hopelessly. Mosey propelled on and off the grid.
Okay.
That's my poem in MQR.
Okay.
A wonderful magazine. It's nice to see it. I guess that's about it. Oh, because my books couldn't be here, I just brought some stuff for you to see. Now, this is my book, Tokyo Butter. You will notice the cover. The cover is something that I made with a USB microscope. I'm actually a scientist too. When I was at Oberlin, someone said you should major in what you're good at. I was good at everything, so I didn't know. Ultimately, I decided I would major in English. That's because, and let me tell you, I got my lowest grade at Oberlin in English, an A-. I got it from Sandra Zagarel. And when I went back there, I thanked her. I said, because with that minus, it allowed me, I'm thinking, oh my God, I got an A or an A+ and everything else. What didn't I do? And so I struggled to, how do I fill this
minus.
Yes, how do I feel that? And so what I did, I developed something called limited fork theory. And there's no time to go into that. But anyway, that's what I did with the minus, and I thanked her. I said, because if you hadn't given me that, I never would have done this. So anyway, this book is a cover, is a rose from my cousin's funeral, and I took a picture of it with a USB microscope. This is my children's, and I should say this. I was married for 40 years to a man who never read any of my books. This man I showed you had read all of them. Woo. All of my books. And he even quoted my work to me, okay? I mean, there's no comparison. Okay, but anyway, so this is my children's book. We didn't talk about it, but if you want to know about limited fork poetics, it's very much related to fractals. This is Last Chance for the Tarzan Howler. Actually, he wrote a very nice review of this book that you can find online somewhere. I showed you this one. He read even my obscure books that no one read, like this one. He quoted them to me. Okay.
I read that one, Charlie.
Well, see, good. And this is another book that greatly influenced me. Story of Jumping Mouse. It's a great children's story. Read it sometime. This was my second book, Pyramid of Bone. It was nominated for the National Book Critics Circle Award and that sort of thing. And this is my book, At Red Bones. I drew the cover. I'm not a good artist. Okay, I guess that's about it. Thank you so much.